respected Vice Chancellor, Professor M.V. Narayanan, and respected Pro-Chancellor of this university, Dr. Muthulakshmi Madam, and Registrar Dr. Gopalakrishnan, the Director, State Institute of Encyclopedia, Madam Muse Mary George, who actually invited me to this seminar, and Mr. Santosh Thomas, member governing body. I came to this campus 3 days before, 18th itself I came here. For the past 3 days, I met so many lecturers and professors. On 3 days, I frequently heard two names by all people, most of the people. One, Sunil P. Ilayadam, and another name is Ajay Shekhar sir. So many people spoke about them, and I frequently heard their name. This is the, I have seen nobody else here before coming to this place. I heard only two voices. I heard one from Shiba Madam, another voice from Aniruddha. This shows their objective approach in selecting the speakers of this seminar. அனைவருக்கும் என் பிரியப்பட்ட வணக்கங்கள். First, kindly burden me not to speak in Malayalam. Actually, I would like to speak in Malayalam. I don't know Malayalam, so I will speak in English. Actually, I have prepared a speech with me. I will read that speech. Kindly burden me for not speaking in Malayalam. Vaikom Satyagraha, a few points for further study. It was 12 years ago that I started to write about the history of Vaikom Poratam. My research took me to various libraries in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and New Delhi. Some of the libraries I visited in Kerala were Central Archives in Trivandrum, Regional Archives in Ernakulam and Kozhikode, Kerala Council for Historical Research, KCHR. In KCHR, I happened to see a collection of news snippets published by Malayala Manorama of Gandhi's visits to Kerala 1924, 5, 27, 34 and 37. Since the materials were in the reference section, permission to take photocopies was denied. Since the materials were not published in the form of a book, I was unable to buy it elsewhere as well. In this regard, I went to meet the director of the council with a proper recommendation, and he helped me get a copy of it. When I introduced myself, I told him about my earlier Tamil book on George Joseph. The director was able to recall that Gandhi had discouraged George Joseph's active role in Vaikom Satyagraha on the virtue of being a Christian. I had not even revealed that I was attempting to focus on my research on Vaikom Satyagraha. The director neither remembered the fact that George Joseph was an editor of Gandhi's Young India, nor about his great contribution to the struggle in the repealing of Criminal Tribes Act in Tamil Nadu. The moment George Joseph's name was brought up, the director could recollect only his removal from Vaikom Satyagraha. It's not surprising that a happening of this nature, a Christian in the name of religion being dismissed from the moment that happened 100 years ago, is deeply imprinted in the scholar's mind. One must also not forget the huge role that K.M. Panikkar, who is in his desire to set foot in regional politics, played in this dismissal of George Joseph. Sadly, his wish never really materialized. How should the Satyagraha be perceived? As a struggle for civil rights, as George Joseph viewed it, or as an internal issue of untouchability among Hindus on how Gandhi chose to see it. These are the points that require deep and further reflection. My engagement was not just with books and archival materials in the libraries, but also the common people who I had interacted with during the 12 times that I visited Kerala and Vaikom for the purpose of writing this book. Many of them in these conversations mentioned about a place that has changed to today's new bus stand in Vaikom town. During the rule of Velu Thambi Talavai, apparently some Avarnas had tried to enter the Vaikom temple. When Velu Thambi came to know about this attempt, he deputed a soldier from his spy squad to keep the trespassers in check. When around 200 young Avarna people tried to enter the temple, they were chased away and prevented from entering the premise of the temple. Those who resisted and persisted were brutally murdered and their bodies were tossed away in a pond. This pond was dug by the Dalavai of Marthandavarma, hence it is known as Dalava Kulam. Later the pond was levelled as a plain, but there is a hearsay in vogue for 100 years that in the same pond, many Vaikom Satyagrahis were also brutally murdered and buried. It is uncertain whether this massacre really happened, but this would be a good occasion to cite Nobel Prize laureate of Japan, Ishigure's words. The essential matter of history is not what happened, but what people thought or said about it. The story is helpful in understanding the reality that despite Vaikom Satyagraha supposedly being a non-violent struggle, violence and bloodshed were in fact part of it. There is another story that bears witness to this violence. This is the event of the conservatives applying calcium stone, sunnambu, into the eyes of Satyagrahis Raman Ilayathu and Amaichadi Thevan as punishment for seeking the rights. As conservatives are usually thought of stereotyped as pacifists, their indulgence in such violent measures is shocking and has deeply resisted in the public's memory. Also, the idea that these conservatives had a change of heart because of the Satyagraha and agreed to lower caste people entering the temple street is highly debatable. The book written by American researcher Mary Elizabeth King is one book that takes the argument in this direction. It is general opinion that Vaikom Satyagraha, which happened in 1924 and 25 at Kottayam district in Kerala, was an agitation to demand the rights of lower caste people to enter the Vaikom temple street. When it is seen in that perspective, it turns out to be a political freedom struggle combined with the movement for social justice. It also becomes a part of rebellion and resistance of respective downtrodden communities. But does that alone form the core of Vaikom movement? As we are observing its centennial year, we have to remind ourselves that the movement has facets beyond the social justice aspect and offers many perspectives and teaches us many relevant lessons for the contemporary world. Now let us look at a few more briefly and not in detail, I am afraid. Actually, I discussed about Sri Narayana Guru's contribution and Ayyan Kali as a player's role and Indran Thuruttil Devan Neelakantan Nambutri as conservatives opposition and Periyar's role as a role of Tamil Nadu and Shraddhanandar as a religious conversion, and why the protesters selected a satyagraha as a tool. These are all the points I have mentioned in this paper, but I don't want to speak all the matters. I wanted to speak only 2 or 3. First, I will take Indranthuruttil Devan Neelakandan Nambiyadri's role in this. Nearly 80 years after the happening of Vaikom Satyagraha, Vaikom Satyagraha Memorial and Gandhi Museum was established in Vaikom in 2011 after 80 years. Photographs of Satyagrahis T.K. Madhavan, K.P. Kesavamenan, Kurur Neelakandan Nambudri, Govindan Sanar, T.R. Krishnaswamy Iyer, Kelappan, Periyar, Nagammai, Gandhi, Rajaji were displayed there. Along with them, one of the staunch opponents of Vaikom movement, Indranthuruttil Devan Neelakandan Nambiyadri's photo was also exhibited there. I was shocked for a moment, but then, considering the mentality or the spirit of the Keralites, I consoled myself. Neelakandan Nambiyadri was the opposition leader at that time, and he led the conservatives. He was a very influential person in the government and the Devaswam at that time. When the Satyagraha was nearing its final phase on 9th March 1925, Gandhi came to Vaikom for peace talks. The next day, he met all the Nambudri Brahmins who opposed the Satyagraha. The meeting was conducted at the house of Indranthuruttil Devan Neelakandan Nambiyadri. 18 members, including royals of Vadakkamkur, Tenkamkur, Vazhudanakadu, and supporters of Satyagraha movement, Gandhi, Rajaji, Mahadeva Desai, Ramdas Gandhi, T.R. Krishnaswamy, and others, and the representative from the government, M.V. Subramanya Iyer, he was the Beshkar at that time. P. Vishwanatha Iyer, he was Tahsildar at that time, and some others attended the meeting. It is rumored that Gandhi was not allowed inside the home of conservatives, though there is no authentic written evidence till now to prove it. This information has been passed on orally for a century. The leftists now own Indranthuruttil Devan House, which currently serves as the union office of Toddy Tappers. This was made possible by Vishwanathan, who was the father of Biswam, a current sitting MP. The leftists have renovated the building, but in order to keep the past in remembrance, they have left intact a part of the outside portions, as it is believed by many that Gandhi sat in that place. Gandhi put forth three options. One, a public referendum in Vaikom or Thiruvankur to be conducted with only Savarnas as voters. Then second proposal, Nambudri Brahmins can show the evidence upon which they have based their claims and affirm their stance. Third, dispute can be resolved with the Diwan as a judge and representatives from both parties advocating their respective causes. Nambudri Brahmins had rejected outrightly the first and third options. As for the second point, they came with Sangarasmriti to prove their point. It was rejected by the Sanskrit scholar and one of the three major Malayalam poets, Vallathol, who had come to meet Gandhi at that time. But Gandhi assured them that he would consult with old Kochi's king and arrive at a decision. It's not yet known that Gandhi's response was, but most probably he too would have rejected it. Further explorations on these meetings and talks and the position taken by conservatives and Gandhi's plans and arguments will help us frame a better picture about the movement. This is what I wanted to stress. Then second, Periyar in Vaikom struggle or the role of Tamil Nadu. In the crucial stage of Vaikom Satyagraham, upon invitation from the local leaders, Periyar had come from Tamil Nadu to take part in it. With his witty speeches, able leadership, sacrificial imprisonment, and consistent actions, Periyar played a paramount role in the movement. It was Periyar who was invited to preside over the success meeting in November 1925 at Vaikom, despite the presence of many leaders from Kerala. Many members, including Periyar's fellow prisoners, K.P. Kesavamenon have mentioned about Periyar's contribution in this struggle. T.K. Ravindran, the first historian to research archival materials on Vaikom Satyagraha in the Central Archives and write its history, has stated that Periyar gave a new life to the movement in a particular space. K.K. Kusman, a professor of modern history, explains that Periyar's lead had come at an important period of the movement. In the Vaikom Satyagraha Memorial, the currently exhibited documents highlight the significance of Periyar's noteworthy contributions. The memorial and statue of Periyar erected at Vaikom depict the recognition that people of Kerala have accorded to Periyar. Even during the days of struggle, Periyar was acknowledged as Vaikom Veerar in Tamil Nadu. In the Tamil Nadu Congress Committee annual report of the year 1924, a mentioning about the role of Tamils, including Periyar and Ayyamuthu, in Vaikom agitation finds its place. In spite of a resolution passed by the Tamil Nadu Congress Committee and Kerala accepting it, some people raised doubts about Periyar's roles in the Satyagraha in Tamil Nadu. But the publication of the books, the biography of George Joseph by George G. Verghese and 8 Furlongs to Freedom by T.K. Ravindran, K.P. Kesavamanon's Pandanathil Ninnu Kazhinda Kalam, and if I might add, my book too, has put an end to these doubts. People from Kerala can have meaningful discussions on this topic too. I think the first 300 pages of my book will be helpful for this said conversation. The gesture of this Kerala government sending a special invitation to the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu for the inaugural function of 100 years of Vaikom Satyagraha is a good sign. Scholars and historians see this as a grateful acknowledgement of Periyar's contribution from the people of Kerala. Then Shraddhanandar or religious conversion. The leader of Arya Samaj, Swami Shraddhanandar, had visited Vaikom to show his solidarity towards Satyagrahis. The roads were prohibited by the Elavas, but not Christians, Muslims, and Arya Samajas. They were allowed to walk in the street. Hence, he converted the Elavas to Arya Samajas and made them to walk down the prohibited streets. If the fundamental objective of the Vaikom Satyagraha was to walk on the street, that could have easily been achieved by mere conversion to Arya Samaj. But the problem was not just inaccessibility of the streets. The struggle was merely a symbolic. The intention was to put an end to all evil practices that were done in the name of caste on the basis of one's birth. This is the reason why many Elavas did not convert to Arya Samaj. After the Vaikom agitation, Elavas conducted many conventions to discuss religious conversion. They even convened a meeting to ponder and decide a religion to which they can get converted. They had invited religious leaders and Elavas leaders to those conferences. Periyar was also invited to one such meeting. On that meeting, his advice was, you can convert to any religion, but do not go to Arya Samaj alone, for it is just a modified version of Hinduism. That's what Periyar told. It is also important to know the extent to which the protesters had utilized Swami Shraddhanandar and his views. A detailed discourse is due to be documented in this subject too. Then the ultimate question is why the protesters have taken Satyagraha as a tool. That was most important question, I feel. The most important matter to be deliberated rather than all of these other issues I mentioned above. Why was the Satyagraha chosen as means to fight? Was there no other way to demand the right to entry to the Vaikom temple streets? First, it was a time when legislative assemblies were already in place in Kerala. And Moolam Assembly also had discussed a resolution to right to walk. Why didn't the Satyagrahis trust it entirely? The Savarnas had also given the Queen Regent a signed memorandum signed by 25,000 caste Hindus, and everyone can be allowed to walk down the road in November 1924. The Queen had replied saying that she would take a decision on the matter once the Assembly takes up the discussion on this matter. Yet, why did the Yedavas not have faith in this resolution? The second point, even before the Vaikom Satyagraha, in T.K. Madhavan's town called Poondotam, a dispute similar nature connected to the entry into the prohibited temple roads and had been resolved by court judgment. Why did not Vaikom Satyagrahis seek the court to demand their rights? During the protest, there was always a contention whether those roads were the property of the temple or the government. A famous advocate and Congress leader from Tamil Nadu, S. Srinivasa Iyengar, conducted talks with all the stakeholders like government, conservatives, temple authorities, and common people, and published a detailed report. In that, he says, the place under dispute was maintained by PWD, a government department. He showed the letters PWD imprinted on the trees, those areas as proof to confirm his statement. He said it was the government property. Even if they claimed that it was the temple's property, it was maintained by the government, and there was a common road being used by the public. The public, including Christians, Muslims, and Arya Samajis, were allowed. It was traditionally believed that public were not allowed to use their private property. It was a traditional belief, yet it was not the right idea. His report clearly indicated that since the public were allowed utilizing the private property, Yedavas, who were also a part of the public, had all the rights to use those roads. Thus, the law was in favor of them, or at least it would have been won in their favor with the help of a trial and arguments. But the protesters did not approach the court, even though there were many advocates. K.P. Kesavamenon is advocate, T.R. Krishnasamy was advocate, and Gandhi was barrister, and George Joseph was barrister. Even though there are so many advocates, they don't believe the court. Why didn't they approach the court? Is another important matter to be contended. It will raise many relevant debates and questions on what was the role and what should be the role of contemporary courts in a community's fight towards a progressive path. Research in this direction may give us answers and a knowledge to choose our means of protest for the social causes that we fight for in our own age. To consider Vaikom Satyagraha as a struggle for social justice and learn from it, it is one approach. In addition to this, by studying it from different perspectives as mentioned above and asking relevant questions would be a good takeaway to deal with the contemporary issues as well. Thank you.